to the next speaker. Algorithms. We always hear about algorithms, especially if we're involved in IT or social media or anything online, I guess, now these days. Algorithms are in our lives, and you have to ask, actually, considering they determine everything, including like whether you get a loan or not from a bank, how fair are they and how accurate are they? And we just go on and on, just trusting these things and hoping that they are fair. So, and we don't even know we're, being run through an algorithm half the time, I imagine. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Weapons of math destruction can increase inequality. So let's hear from Antonio Messina. Welcome to the stage.
So, I'm an IT fan. So when I'm bored, I usually Google geeky stuff. This one time, I ended up searching for professional hairstyle for work, and then after, I searched for unprofessional hairstyle for work. Now, it's not a cat, but if you look at both pictures, one after the other, you will notice there is kind of a bias between them, specifically for the skin color. I started to guess, but why is Google showing me this bias? Is it Google algorithms bias? So this is how I started my search. And I realized we have a lot of algorithms we use all the time, and they all have biases. And this is what I want to talk to you about, because I think it's a discussion we should have. Algorithms can shape your life, and they can have biases and be unfair, exactly like any other human being, but we probably don't notice that. A famous example is from Facebook. In 2014, while the Ferguson riots were exploding in Missouri because of a policeman who killed a black boy, white policeman, on the internet and Twitter, you could see everything about this Ferguson. There was a huge debate, but on Facebook, you could only see the ice bucket challenge. Well, the reason is pretty easy to explain. Facebook doesn't really care that you get the most recent and most relevant news on your cell phone. They care that you click on their link. So they propose you the links you're most likely to click. So Ice Bucket is probably easier to link than very complex article on poverty. But it's not just Facebook. We use algorithms even if we don't know. Another example come from the Court of Justice in the US. They are currently using software to decide if they are, if an inmate is more likely to commit a crime if they get parole freedom. So they use this algorithm to decide if the person is going to should get parole freedom or not. Now the point is, these algorithms are supposed to be fair, and they cannot use race as a parameter. Turns out, however, that most of the white people were getting parole and black people were not. Why? Because instead of using the race, they were actually using so-called proxy features. Other parameters like where they were living or who they were acquaintance to, or the income. And these in some cases are actually proxies for this type of for race in certain cities. Now, this algorithm can be biased because on purpose or by mistake. And sometimes it's really, really hard to understand why they are biased. This software called Deep Patient was trained on a huge data set of patients. And it was so good at predicting some diseases, specifically schizophrenia, that doctors said, you know what? This guy is probably onto something. Maybe we can try to understand something new about this disease. Turns out this is not possible. In some cases, especially in deep machine learning algorithms, the decisions are took so deep in the neuronal network that they don't make any sense, not even for the developer. So I guess the point I want to make is, whenever you have an algorithm in front of you, you should keep in mind that this algorithm can be biased because of many different reasons. And you should not trust them. But this is what we usually do, because we think, well, it's math. It was written by someone smarter than me, and for sure, it's applying the same algorithm over and over again. So how can it be racist? How can it be unfair? Well, it turns out they can be as unfair and unethical as a human being. So whenever you use an algorithm, whenever you write an algorithm, you should be sure that this algorithm is actually it's moral and ethical as much as you would expect from a human being. That's the last slide. I was afraid to take too much. In the end, I took too less.
Yeah. That's okay. It's okay. We didn't mind. There's nothing wrong with a bit of silence. It's nice, isn't it?
I agree.
It's okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're
so,
welcome.
on your application for Ignite, you wrote that you've changed your job description so many times.
Yeah, that's correct.
That now you just say, I solve complex IT problems. Like, what other things have you done that have led you to this point where you're working with algorithms and programming?
Yeah, well, the IT world is growing so quickly that if you take any IT job, in 5 years it changed so much that you cannot recognize it. The tools I was using 10 years ago are completely different from the tools I'm using now, and they're probably going to be very different from the tools I will use in 5 years. So, yeah.
I'm just wondering, actually, what I'll do is I'll let you ask Antonio a question after the show. I didn't mean to mention that please get hold of our speakers if you want to ask them anything about, or argue with them, or say they're wrong, or say they're right, or that you love them. Tell them that after the show they're going to be around and they're really happy to take your questions, including yourself. So thank you so much, Antonio. That's really scary and fascinating.